At low tide on one beach in Wales, the stumps of an entire forest rise out of the sand. That forest is about 4,500 years old. It's the strangest stop on a list of 25 hidden beach towns, stretched from the Lincolnshire coast to the Scottish Islands. Most of them sell for a fraction of what Salcombe or Sandbanks ask for the same kind of view. Every one of them gets a real price, a real population number, and one honest catch. A place that sounds perfect is usually leaving something out. We'll end back on that forest and the legend behind it, but we're starting at the other end of the list first. Salcombe in Devon now averages £1.24 million a house. Sandbanks in Dorset sits close behind it. Both towns are propped up by second home buyers who visit a few weeks a year and leave the rest of the town half empty. Meanwhile, the average asking price for a home on the British coast overall is somewhere around £370,000. That already tells you those two towns are playing a completely different game to everywhere else on this list. Saltcoats in Ayrshire, a real working seaside town with a real harbour and a full-time population, averages closer to £120,000. That's less than a third of the national coastal average. It's still a town with sand, a promenade, and people who've lived there their whole lives, not just a fortnight in August. This list runs from that end of the market. 25 towns that actually deliver a beach and a life for a price a pension can carry. The prices come from property portals, bank research, and local reporting, rather than tourism copy. Every town gets a real number where a reliable one exists. Where it doesn't, we'll tell you that plainly instead of inventing one to sound impressive. Every town also gets one honest catch. A place that never mentions its downsides isn't being kind to you. It's just selling you something, and this channel doesn't do that. We're covering 5 regions in total. That's the Lincolnshire coast, the northwest and northeast of England, the Ayrshire and Highland coasts of Scotland, and a long finish along Wales's Cardigan Bay. Some of these towns you'll know by name and never thought to check the price of. Most of them you won't know at all, and that's exactly the point. Let's start at 25. Number 25 is Chapel St Leonards in Lincolnshire. It sits 7 miles from Skegness, built around a stretch of green space locals just call the Green. The beach and promenade behind it still have that old-fashioned deck chairs and ice cream feel most of England's coast lost decades ago. Property here runs from around £30,000 right up past £1 million, and that spread is the honest catch. A big chunk of that market is static homes and holiday bungalows on residential parks, not full-time bricks and mortar houses. The number on a listing site won't always mean what you think it means until you check exactly what kind of property you're buying. It's flat, easy walking for anyone who wants to avoid hills. Skegness down the road covers the bigger shops, and doctor's surgery's a small resort like this one can't. Compare that spread of prices against Salcombe's £1 million average from a minute ago. Even the priciest house in Chapel St Leonards starts to look like a rounding error. Number 24 is Sutton-on-Sea, a few miles up the coast and technically part of Mabelthorpe. Land registry records put the average sold price here around £105,000. That figure comes from a small run of logged sales, so treat it as a rough guide rather than gospel. It's still one of the cheapest stretches of coastline in England, with a wide sandy beach behind the sea wall. The promenade stays properly quiet outside the school holidays, backed by bungalows built for exactly the kind of easy, single-level living this audience tends to want. Number 23 is Mabelthorpe itself, right next door. Its beach has shown up in UK top 10 rankings in the travel press, which is a strange thing to say about a town this overlooked. Nobody's published a reliable average price for the town as a whole, so we won't invent one here. It sits in the same low-cost band as Sutton-on-Sea beside it, and that whole band is about as affordable as English seaside gets. Amusement arcades and chip shops here have barely changed in a generation, and a bus route runs straight into Skegness and Louth for anything the town itself doesn't have. Number 22 is Fleetwood on the Lancashire coast, just north of Blackpool. Rightmove's own research on seaside prices puts it near the bottom of the whole country's price list. It's a former fishing port with a working lighthouse at the mouth of the River Wyre, with long sandy flats stretching out at low tide. That's the kind of town that gets skipped for its louder, brasher neighbour down the coast, and stays cheap precisely because of it. A tram line still runs along the front connecting Fleetwood to Blackpool itself, so the bright lights are a short ride away without having to live inside them. Number 21 is South Shields at the mouth of the River Tyne. It shows up in the same cheapest seaside data as Fleetwood and Girvan. It's a different kind of place entirely from the small resorts around it on this list. This is a real working river-mouth town, with a proper sandy beach at Sandhaven, right next to the shipping traffic heading out to sea. That contrast, a working port on one side of the headland and a family beach on the other, is most of its charm. It's also most of what keeps it off the usual seaside shortlists. South Shields sits on the Tyne and Wear Metro line too. That means Newcastle's hospitals and shops are a train ride away, rather than a long drive. A useful detail for an older resident. From a river mouth in the northeast, we head north into Northumberland and across to the Cumbrian coast. The next 5 towns get noticeably prettier and in one case noticeably more expensive for a reason that's worth knowing before you go looking there. Number 20 is Workington, on the Cumbrian coast facing the Solway Firth. Local reporting on Rightmove's regional data puts the area, shared with its neighbour Maryport, at around £140,000 average. It's an old shipping and steel town turned into a quieter coastal spot. The Scottish hills are visible across the water on a clear day, and the working harbour still remembers its industrial past. The West Coast rail line runs straight through, keeping Carlisle and its bigger hospital within easy reach. Number 19 is Maryport, just along the same stretch of the Solway Firth, sharing that roughly £140,000 figure with Workington. It's a proper harbour town with real fishing heritage stretching back centuries. A Georgian terrace laid out above the water has survived far better than the industry that once supported it. Being honest about that shared regional price matters more than pretending each town has its own precise average when the data doesn't split that cleanly. The Roman fort at Maryport, still being excavated above the harbour, is a reminder that people have valued this stretch of coast for a very long time. Number 18 is Newbiggin by the Sea in Northumberland. A national study of 209 coastal locations placed it among the UK's 10 cheapest seaside towns. There's no separately verified price for it here, so take the ranking itself as the fact worth knowing, rather than a number we haven't confirmed. The beach itself is a proper curved sandy bay, watched over by a striking bronze sculpture of a couple staring out to sea that's become the town's unofficial symbol. A working golf links runs along the dunes right behind it. Number 17 is Amble, at the mouth of the River Coquet in Northumberland. The average price here runs around £223,000. Locals will tell you that's noticeably cheaper than nearby Bamborough or Sea Houses, even though the coastline barely changes between them. Here's the honest catch and the useful comparison in one line. Alnmouth, just a few miles up the same coast, averages close to £492,000. That's for a similar kind of view and a similar row of pastel houses above the water, same coastline, same kind of sand, more than double the price. Purely because one town got discovered by the second home market and the other one so far hasn't. Number 16 is Girvan, on the Ayrshire coast, looking out toward the granite lump of Ailsa Craig, sitting offshore in the Firth of Clyde. It's another name in Rightmove's bottom rung of seaside prices, without an individually confirmed figure here. Its position on that list and its long sandy beach backed by a working harbour tell you plenty about what you're getting for the money. A direct train line runs up to Glasgow, so this isn't a town cut off from the rest of the country just one the market hasn't noticed yet. If you're enjoying seeing towns that never make it onto the usual seaside lists, that's the whole point of this channel. We do real numbers and real catches instead of postcard fluff. If you've made it this far, stick around and hit subscribe, because the next 10 towns get properly interesting, and 2 of them are only reachable by boat. Number 15 is Saltcoats in Ayrshire, and by most measures it's the cheapest seaside town in Great Britain. Depending on which dataset you use, the average asking price sits somewhere between £113,000 and £122,000. That's for a town with a real sand beach and a working harbour that's been landing boats for centuries. That price is also the honest catch. Being the very cheapest usually means the market has marked a place down for reasons that go beyond simply being overlooked. Expect some rougher edges alongside the genuine coastline. It's on the same rail line as Devon, running straight into Glasgow, and the beach itself looks out toward Arran's mountains on a clear day. From here, the list only gets stranger, and we haven't even reached the islands yet. Number 14 is Port Bannatyne on the Isle of Bute. The average property price is around £115,000. A homeowner satisfaction study scored it among the happiest coastal towns in Scotland, alongside Dunoon and Stranraer. People who live there rate it more highly than plenty of famous names. The catch is right there in the word island. Everything, deliveries, visitors, your own errands into the nearest city, runs on a ferry timetable, not yours. The old Victorian marina here has been restored and still draws sailing boats through the summer. A quiet reminder this was once a proper resort for Glasgow's shipyard workers. Number 13 is Rothesay, the main town on that same island. Its Victorian seafront and Rothesay Castle rise out of the middle of it, moated and roofless, sitting there since the 13th century. Average prices land somewhere between £111,000 and £168,000, depending on the dataset you check. The ferry from Wemyss Bay takes about 35 minutes, connecting straight onto the train line into Glasgow. It's a real commute, just one with a boat in the middle of it. Rothesay itself is a proper working harbour town with a full high street, a cinema, and a hospital that most towns this size in Scotland don't get to keep. Number 12 is Wick, right at the top of mainland Scotland in Caithness. The average price here is around £130,000, with the wider county averaging closer to £153,000. Both figures sit well under half the national coastal average. This is properly remote, hours from a major hospital by road. That distance is the real trade-off for the kind of isolation and empty coastline that makes a place like this beautiful in the first place. Wick was once one of Europe's busiest herring ports, with a harbour built to hold hundreds of boats at a time. That history still shapes the town's layout today. Number 11 is Invergordon, sitting on a deep firth further down the Highland coast. It's another name from that same cheapest seaside research, without a separately confirmed price here. Its harbour is deep enough to bring in cruise ships several times a year. They unload a few thousand tourists into a town of a few thousand residents for an afternoon. Then it goes quiet again. Whiskey distilleries dot the hills right behind the town, part of the same Highland landscape that draws those cruise passengers off the boat in the first place. From the far north of Scotland, the list turns south again, through Fife down into Yorkshire and County Durham, and finally across into Wales. The last 5 towns get harder to beat with every entry. Number 10 is Crail, in the East Neuk of Fife. Around 1,600 people live here in a harbour village that's been drawing painters for generations. Stone cottages stack above a working fishing harbour full of lobster creels rather than yachts. Its more famous neighbours tell you why Crail itself has stayed this quiet and this affordable. North Berwick, just up the coast, averages £342,000. Anstruther, a few miles the other way, averages £276,000, both sitting on that same stretch of coastline Crail does. The old Tolbooth clock still looks out over the harbour here, and the whole village is small enough to see in a single unhurried walk. Number 9 is Saltburn by the Sea in North Yorkshire. A working Victorian cliff tramway still carries people down the cliff face to the pier below, one of the oldest water-powered lifts of its kind still running in Britain. The average price is around £238,000, noticeably higher than most of the lists so far. The honest catch here isn't remoteness, it's popularity. Enough people already know about Saltburn's Victorian architecture and its surf-friendly beach that its prices have caught up with its charm over the last decade. The pier below the tramway is one of the few left standing on this stretch of the North Sea coast. Number 8 is Seaham in County Durham. It's known now for beaches scattered with sea glass, the smoothed down remains of decades of coastal dumping from the mines that used to run this entire coastline. The average asking price is around £158,000. The seafront has been properly regenerated with new cafes and a marina where the old coal staiths used to stand. Walk a few streets back from the water though, and the old mining town underneath is still visible. That history is worth knowing before you fall for the glass on the sand. Lord Byron married a local heiress here and honeymooned right above this coastline at Seaham Hall back in 1815. That's long before the mines or the sea glass they eventually left behind. Number 7 is Millport, the only town on the Isle of Cumbrian. The average price is around £126,000, with the wider island averaging under 100,000. About 1,100 people live there year-round. A 10-minute ferry from Largs gets you there. The whole coast road is small enough to walk or cycle in a single afternoon, past the tiny cathedral that claims to be the smallest in Europe. The population swells hard every summer, with day trippers from Glasgow and quiets right back down every winter. Know which version of the town you're buying into before you commit. Everyone gets around on foot or by bike here, since cars are barely needed on an island this size. Number 6 is Tenby in Pembrokeshire, a walled medieval harbour town with pastel Georgian houses stacked above the sand. A full ring of town walls still stands from the 13th century. Prices here actually fell over the past year, from around £220,000 down to around £209,000. That's a drop of more than 5%. It's still one of the pricier towns on this list, but it's the rare one moving in the buyer's direction instead of away from it. And that trend is worth watching closely rather than assuming it holds forever. Boats still run out to Caldey Island from the harbour here, monks and all, a day trip most of England has never heard of. From County Durham and the islands, the last stretch of this list belongs entirely to one 40-mile run of Welsh coastline. It ends somewhere stranger than anywhere else on this list. Number 5 is Ayrshire in Ceredigion, a harbour town that didn't grow by accident the way most of the others on this list did. A vicar named Alban Gwyn planned the whole thing deliberately in the early 1800s. The brightly painted terraces around the harbour still follow his original layout almost exactly, every one a different colour. The average price is around £239,000. That same planned, photogenic uniformity makes it easy to picture on a postcard. It's also exactly why the town costs more than the quieter fishing villages sitting either side of it. Fresh seafood stalls line the harbour most mornings, sourced straight from boats tied up a few feet away. Number 4 is Barmouth in Gwynedd, with a long sandy beach and the mountain of Cadair Idris rising directly behind the rooftops like a backdrop nobody painted in. The Mordack Estuary Trail starts right here and runs inland along a former railway line, through some of the best scenery in Wales, all the way to Dolgellau. There's no reliably verified average price for the town to share here, so take the geography as the honest draw instead. The town itself climbs a steep hillside above the harbour, worth knowing if stairs and slopes matter to your daily life and your knees. A rail line still runs along the estuary into the town, one of the few surviving branch lines on this stretch of the Welsh coast. Number 3 is New Quay, also in Ceredigion. It has a sheltered sandy harbour beach where bottlenose dolphins show up regularly enough that people watch for them straight from the shore, no boat trip needed. Like Barmouth, there's no confirmed town-wide price here, so we'll leave the price out rather than guess at one. The streets are steep, stacked in tight terraces above the water. The summer crowds are real too, chasing those same dolphins along a harbour wall that gets busy fast in July and August. Outside those 2 months, it settles back into a proper working fishing village most of the year. Number 2 is Aberystwyth, the biggest town on this part of the coast by a wide margin. The average price is around £219,000, down from about £246,000 the year before. That's a fall of nearly 7%. It's a university town, which means more shops, more services, a working hospital, and more life running through it year-round than any of the smaller villages around it. That's also the honest trade-off. You're swapping a bit of the quiet those other Welsh towns offer for genuine everyday convenience. That includes a cliff railway up to Constitution Hill and a castle ruin sitting right on the seafront itself. One town is left. It isn't the cheapest place on this list, and it isn't the biggest. It's the one we promised you at the very start. Number 1 is Borth, back in Ceredigion, a few miles up the coast from Aberystwyth. The beach runs for close to 3 miles of sand and shingle, fully open to the Atlantic. That's exactly why surfers have claimed it as their own for decades. At a very low tide, something else shows up on that sand that no other beach on this list has. The blackened stumps of an ancient forest break through the surface. Those trees have been rooted there for around 4,500 years. That's long before anyone built a harbour or a promenade on this coast, back when the sea level here was still lower than it is today. That drowned forest is tied to one of Wales's oldest stories, the legend of Cantre'r Gwelod. It's a lost kingdom said to lie somewhere under the waters of Cardigan Bay, swallowed by the sea after a gate was left open during a storm. Nobody's proving an actual lost kingdom from a few tree stumps, and we won't pretend otherwise. The forest itself is real, and it sits in that same run of affordable Ceredigion coast as Aberavon, New Quay, and Aberystwyth. All of them are within a short drive of each other. That's why the list ends here, and not somewhere flashier. The same rail line that runs through Aberystwyth stops at Borth too. This isn't some cut-off village, just a small one that happens to sit on top of something 4,500 years old. That's what a genuinely hidden beach town actually looks like. Not a marketing phrase stuck on a property listing, but an actual forest nobody built and nobody advertised. It's still sitting there at every single low tide, free for anyone willing to walk out and look for themselves. 25 towns, 5 regions, and 25 different honest catches. From a bungalow on the Lincolnshire flats to a drowned forest under Cardigan Bay. None of them are perfect, and every single one of them is real. Tell us in the comments which one you'd actually pack a van for, and which one surprised you the most.